And just like that, it's Thursday. It's 6 o'clock. Not half pop pickers, all right. Out of Unit 1 into Unit 2. How about a little bit of Mr. Dave D, Dozy, Beaky, Mick, and you know who, all right? I'm Russ Kane. Do you know, when I was growing up, Alan Freeman was my hero. I never thought I'd meet him, let alone work with him. I was a kid. I was 9. Wow. Anyway, this is the ABC of CBD, created by this man. You know him. You love him. He is the Count of Cannabinoids, the hunk of hemp, the Maharaja of marijuana, Ollie Mammon.
What's up, guys? How are you all today? Happy Thursday. Happy Thursday.
You're channeling your inner Dave Grohl there.
Yeah, I've got I've let out the positive energy. It's a hair down Thursday. I want everyone out there to let their hair down. No, it's I'll be honest with you, I wash my hair like once a week, and on the day after I wash my hair, I kind of I enjoy it before I go back in the lab and it greases up and oils up, and I'm stuck in a ponytail for another 6 days. So I mean,
because
taking full advantage of the locks.
I've never asked you this, but presumably you have to have it all tied back, like anybody, like working in, say, the food industry or in a restaurant or anything
I literally spend I'll say 95% of my life with my hair tied into a bun. I mean, it's the most annoying thing in the world. It's also painful after a while. Do you know what I mean? Like you're just always,
well,
you've
not
always
really.
got your hair tied up.
I don't. I keep mine shortish, although
it's a little bit like hat hair. Do you know sometimes when you wear a hat all day long and then you take it off and you have that, it just feels a little bit off your head. It's the same sort of feeling. You have it in a bun all day. When you take it out the bun, you just feel a little bit like it's out of place.
Anyway, before we get on to a more hirsute conversation, ladies and gentlemen, let us see this.
I'm sure you've heard before that good quality CBD needs to be really, really expensive. This is the new view of CBD, a product created by users for users, a product at an affordable price, available everywhere, at any time, at the simple click of a button. Just CBD and MCT oil. No additives, no preservatives, and no flavor enhancers. It's a simple subscription-based service, the cleanest possible CBD delivered to your door for the lowest possible price. Your product, your rights for the lowest possible price.
I love the way that ends. I never get tired of that.
Never get tired of it.
Never get tired of that ad. I got to be honest, I never do.
I always look at that. Oh my God, I'm on TV. Hey, Mum, look, I'm on TV. I'm on the telly.
Now
Love it.
then.
Always wanted to be on the telly.
This is show number 93.
Can't believe it. 7 away from 100.
And co-founder Howard Jameson said he'd met you. So I don't know where the hell he met. God only knows where he met you. And somewhere or other on a tube train or something. I don't know where he met you. And he said, I got excited. And I honestly thought, well, 3 weeks, 4 weeks tops. 93 weeks later, here we are, award nominated. I'm just a passenger. It's all down to you, Ollie. You find everybody and the guests, and you lead the conversation, which I know the square root of sod all about. And it's been a huge hit. So bravo to you and bravo
What's
to Howard.
been really nice is, I kind of agree with you. I thought I'll do 2 or 3 episodes, maybe end up doing 1 episode every couple of months, potentially coming in as a guest on your daily show once every 3 months to talk about CBD, because that's how it first started, if you remember. The first thing we ever did together was you brought me out on the daily show. And you're like, let's see how this guy is on air. And you brought me out for about, I think it was like a 5-10 minute slot, and ended up staying with you guys for like 35 minutes.
Yes.
And you kept me on and brought on other guests whilst I was there. And you're like, I think this could work. And I also was not expecting. I remember that beautiful lockdown day when I logged into StreamYard for the first time, and I was there in the men's radio, what's it called, station waiting room, and I was like, oh, I'm going to be on radio for the first time, and a couple of years
digital down, we call it our digital green room.
And it was like, I actually still can't believe that we've nearly come up to 100 episodes.
What are we going to do? I want to know for the 100th episode.
I think maybe we should actually do one live together.
Oh, look like the Simpsons.
Get absolutely pissed and just see what happens.
Well, no, don't do that. I did that with we went to the Soho Whiskey Club, Phil, Dave, and myself. And Phil, he was getting louder and louder and I said, "Oh my God!" I said, "Phil, you're trashed."
Phil's an interesting one because he doesn't seem like someone who would get absolutely trashed. But I remember
hammered.
2-3 years ago on Christmas when we did our Christmas Eve episode.
Yeah.
Like it was like 2-3 years ago, and it was right in the middle of lockdown, and there was nothing else to do, so we decided to do a Christmas Eve episode.
Yeah.
And I remember out of nowhere, Phil just comes in. It was absolutely hilarious because he was plastered, like absolutely plastered, and just talk about his whiskeys and stuff. And it's quite funny to see him because he's such a proper individual.
Oh, he's so serious.
He's
serious. He's very,
so
very
proper.
professional. I've worked with Phil over many places, and he has a fantastic reputation. In fact, you can see him. He is back. You know where he's been the last 2 weeks? Mount Kilimanjaro, climbing Mount. I'm not kidding. We'll come back to Mr. Phil Dave in one, publicising him.
Oh, he's incredible. No, I'm happy to publicise
Here we
Phil.
go. How do I get the CBD? Good question from Paul Danon.
Okay, what do you want to get? If you want to get to ask another question, I'll answer it. It's a perfect day to ask these questions.
Yes,
it is the perfect day.
This is a good day. So, Paul,
you can go to thetinctureclub.com and you should be able to order a CBD tincture on there. So if you go to thetinctureclub.com, which is the advert at the start of the show is for that brand. It's a very simple, straightforward product. It's a 10%, 1,000 milligram bottle. It's mathematically accurate. It's straight to the point. So I don't know if that's something you're willing to try. If not, we have another brand who Taylor Mammon is our own brand. It's called Patch Adams. You can find Patch Adams actually on Amazon. You can find it, and it'll be with you next day. So if you want to order that, we have a range of different products for different purposes. You could say I would recommend one of the stronger products at the 1,200 milligrams. It's about a 3.5% product, but generally it has it has some very good reviews. So I would suggest those two for you. However, if you wanted like a balm or something like that, something which is a bit more topical, I would also say check out Patch Adams on Amazon, or you can go to the Patch Adams website, which is patchadamscbd.com or patchadamscbd.co.uk. You can do that, or you can just drop me a little Facebook message afterwards. I can send you these different places where you can go. But Paul, anything I could do to help point you in the right direction would be my absolute pleasure.
I never knew you had Patch Adams, like the Robin Williams film.
It is. It's a take on the name.
Yeah.
Slightly different spelling for trademark purposes.
Yeah, I was going to say, how did you get away with that?
To be honest with you, I didn't name that brand. I personally feel like we're going to get absolutely kind of bitten at some moment in the future.
I thought you get your backside sued.
But to be honest with you, it's our tribute to Robin Williams, and I actually love Robin Williams. So I mean, I wouldn't want to do anything to disrespect him. If his people, God rest his soul, served me a notice to pull it off the shelves, I would do it in a heartbeat. But so far, it's spelled differently. It's a different trade name.
How have you spelt it then?
Patch Adam. So there's no S.
Oh, no S.
Yeah. My lisp makes me sound like there's an S at the end.
You haven't got a lisp.
I don't know. I just thought
it was a good excuse
right there.
You haven't got
I have Tourette's. I have a lisp. I've got speech impediments. I've got loads of problems, Russ. You want to bring it out live on air? Should we talk about your problems?
Yes. So 93 weeks. I've never asked you this, but as we can chew the fat, as my dear pal Joe Good would say, do you feel you as a person, not the company, but you as a person have got across many of the points that you wanted to? Because you're not just an ambassador.
So this is actually...
You're much more than an ambassador.
I'm so happy you asked that question, Russ, because it leads right on to what I wanted to say. And it leads right into the episode. The point of this show was never really to talk about what's happening. It's never really been to talk about what's happening going forward. It's always been to kind of discuss what happened and why one or how one got here. And in every episode we've ever had a guest, every time we've ever had a guest, I've always asked them the question, what brought you into the world of cannabis? What was the journey before the journey? What was the journey up until this point? Because it's all great and wonderful to talk about all the things you want to do, but I want to know why you want to do them. So, on approaching 100 episodes, I thought it'd be really nice to have a little bit of a reflection over the past 2 years. The next few episodes I've got lined up, I've got some incredible new guests. I've got some clinic owners, some athletes, some brand owners, some entrepreneurs, some crafty creators, a hell of a lot more personalities. But this week I wanted to reflect back. I wanted to appreciate, I wanted to respect. I wanted to admire our achievement as a community because, but in the other way, we're always looking forward as a community. We're always rushing forward, and we never really take a moment just to kind of stop and be like, this is what we've created and this is how. Because very few people actually pause, look back and assess not how we got here, Okay, it's not how we built this community, it's why we all came here. And it's a slightly different way of looking at it. It's something which we really have discussed on this show with every single guest we've ever had, is why did they end up being in the position they are in? Why have they taken their pain and their misery and turned it into help for others? Why have they done this and why have they done that? And that's basically what I really wanted to discuss today. And I found that we've really got that message across, this message of why the industry has all come together, why these people, these different personalities have all come together.
See, what's interesting is over the 93 shows, and I had no idea. I mean, I didn't know how this was going to go as a series at all. And I had no idea what sort of person would be coming on the show that you found as guests. And there is no real commonality about them as people. It's an extraordinary thing.
It's pretty incredible.
They're all so different. They're all so very, very different.
So I had this conversation last week, and someone actually asked me, one of my family members asked me, he goes, "What type of people work in your industry? Are they all like you?" And I was like, "Well, like me in what way? Like me in terms of pro-cannabis, or like me in terms of, a university student turned scrap metal dealer, turned writer, turned cannabis entrepreneur who's had a backbone in cannabis for the last 15 years? I go, there aren't many people like me, but the same way that there are journalists who found out their kids were sick and decided to start researching cannabis as a potential option. They never ended up using cannabis on their kids, but they've ended up making cannabis their forte because after the research they've done, they've realized how powerful and valuable it is. There are activists and advocates who have had sick, dying children who have saved their kids with cannabis. And these are people who were doctors, lawyers, bankers, caregivers, and a plethora of personalities from across the spectrum. But they've ended up being medical caregivers, experts in their field, spokespeople for, rare cases of medical ailments. And there is no common factor. It's actually a little bit mental. The cannabis community, the cannabis industry is made up of so many different people from so many different places.
What is interesting is that not one of the guests, I've never walked away from the show and thought, oh man, they're just in it for the money.
No, that's it. There's
I've never done that. Now, don't forget,
if there are, I haven't brought them on.
I've interviewed over many, many years.
Thousands
and thousands.
Tens of thousands of people.
Well, I don't know about tens, but thousands of people for sure.
Hundreds and hundreds of millions of people.
Millions of people. And,
since Russ created the first radio in 1746, he has been broadcasting.
Me and Edison, we were like that at school.
That's it. Edison would have been nothing without
nothing. I said, mate,
I tell that to everyone.
Press that button. And he went, it won't work. I said, trust me on this. I used to call him Eddie.
I'm about to say, you're right, Eddie, my son.
And Marconi, we go way back. Did our first shows together, me and Mark. Anyway, what I was going to say is that having interviewed lots of people, you come away sometimes, you think, oh, you're just taking a shill. I get it. I don't blame you, but don't pretend you're actually passionate about whatever gizmo, gadget, entrepreneurial thing you're flogging because you want to make money. And there's nothing wrong in that. I got no problem with that. But the people that you have found are apostles for this. They're not just advocates and they're not just brand ambassadors. I mean, some of them really are apostles and have convinced me, and the ones without any doubt that have been the most powerful, the most moving, the most emotional are the women, and it has been primarily women, I have to say, who have knowingly broken the law and, having been up to that point absolutely law-abiding citizen, to save the life or improve the life of their children who were horribly ill. And you can't but fail to be moved by that. And it's down to you, Ollie. I didn't know any of these people from a hole in the wall. And, you presented them, and it's great.
Even some of the capitalists, because that's another thing. We've had some capitalists on the show. We've had like a few entrepreneurs and a few people who literally think with their pocket. But when you really tear away at them and you really start to kind of like move the bullshit which they put in front of themselves, these corporate images that they structure around themselves, and you move them away, there's still depth. So do you remember Bill Oldham, the investor? We did the it was like literally the morning after Glastonbury. I recorded the movie.
Sensational, by the way.
He was sensational, but we humanized him on that show because there was one moment where he turned around and he said, "Look, I've always worked in the medical healthcare industry. I've always invested in the medical healthcare industry." He goes, I've got 2 autistic children. And I know that the medical healthcare industry doesn't have much in terms of options for them. Maybe this side of the world might, and that's why I'm investing in this side of the world. And when he said that, I was like, oh my God, my hat is off to you. Because I was like, you know what, you're a bit of a corporate, it's not bad, but I mean, like, you are thinking pocket first. But as soon as he said that and he dropped his autistic kids live on air, I was like, oh my God, this dude, he's one of us. He's come from a place of pain, a place of trauma, a place of suffering. He's come to share his story. We've listened to his life. We've listened to his fear, his problems. And then we understood the person and we understood his drive. And I'm saying, like, he's probably the most, him and also like Ed McDermott, extremely corporate. But he still also had this little bit of soul which shone through that, like, I can't remember if it was his auntie or his grandma or someone had an interaction with it and it helped them. And it was like, all right, it makes sense. Yes, you've got your money cap on, but you've got your money cap on because you've seen what a difference this makes. And it was quite, I also about to say, there hasn't been one guest who's made me kind of turn around and be like, why have I let them on my show? As in, like, there hasn't been, because every single one of them.
I wish I could say the same thing, by the way.
I mean, like,
I've been very lucky. I've been very, very lucky.
They've made our show sensational, Russ. I mean, like, I think about the 96 weeks there hasn't been a boring conversation. As in, even the boring conversations have been interesting as hell. It's just a bit, and I don't really understand how we've managed to create this, because originally we all thought it was for the last 2-3 weeks.
I'll tell you why. It hasn't been done before. And I always say when I'm advertising the shows, I set all that stuff up. It's, it's groundbreaking. And that sounds such a horrible, boring cliche, straight out of the cliche book of cliches. But it's true, because you've never had another radio station saying, let's devote every week 1 hour to something which some people think is really out there. But what has fascinated me is that people who've come onto the show as viewers and listeners, either they've told their story or, like me, they'd never tried any CBD products before. I never had, didn't even know what it was. And it's made a huge difference. It's made a difference. And I can only say it works.
Also, we're actually getting through to people. I mean, like, do you know that like you got a message from Helen as well, right? From China. Did you see that? What the hell is that? How did you even find that? She's like, you have followers in China.
A lady called Helen found me somehow on LinkedIn. Then we had this whole thing, and I said, well, it's not my business. I'm not involved in the business side. Just here's Ollie. Reach out, and then you went, oh yeah, Helen from China, and you go, pretty random.
Yeah, like random. Also, China, there's no YouTube, there's no social media. I mean, like, they can't get this. So it's like, how are they finding us? Which is kind of incredible, which means that they actually are finding us. There's no social media out there. Everything's restricted, right?
Yeah.
You need like a VPN in order to access certain information. It's a different world.
This goes out on so many platforms, which I've never actually taken the time or trouble to explain. So it's not, obviously it's on Twitter and it's on Facebook and it's on YouTube and it's on the Men's Radio Station website. It's on all of those things, but it's also on another about 45 different radio digital channels, which you wouldn't know about because I never bothered to bore you with those sort of facts. And it goes out all over the world. Don't ask me where. I have no idea. We just pay
it
for
goes out there. I know it goes out there.
It goes out because you've had messages.
Like some crazy messages. Some random dude in Australia messaged me. I'm getting it. I got a Singapore message a few months ago. I mean, like, it's a bit like, all right, but it's all these places where cannabis isn't really talked about. So I don't really understand how they're finding us, but I mean, like, it's amazing. And every guest has made that show possible, and I've got a lot of people that message me saying, just found you guys on SoundCloud. I'm going to go back and watch from the beginning. And I'll get messages saying, like, that Callie Seaman's amazing. That Dr. Callie Seaman's amazing.
Oh,
or, Jade Proudman. I can't believe how strong she is. Tanine Montgomery. What a warrior.
I like, was it last week? I don't know. I lose track of time, especially because of Her Majesty's passing. And the young lady who she was the Hempress.
Jade.
That was hilarious.
Jade was amazing last week. So what was quite funny that we discussed with Jade last week is this whole idea that there's no guidance counselor or career advisor for this industry. There's none of this, when you're 15, 14 years old in school, what do you want to do? Actually, no, I want to help people. Well, have you thought about the cannabis industry? Or I really like cannabis. Well, have you thought about the cannabis industry? Maybe now in today's world with, the global economy of cannabis, but even then, the fact that medical schools are not teaching it, probably not. And if you were to turn around to your guidance counselor and say, I want to work with weed, you're probably going to end up having like a strict talking to and a little
Well,
bit
I don't know
of
if you
like,
have a strict talking to, but the guy, if it got back to the you have to be so careful with these things. If it got back to the parents and the parents took umbrage at the fact that, the teacher would be hauled over the coals.
Of course.
I understand. And of course, the teachers, as far as I know, and I'm really very open to being told I'm completely wrong, they want more concrete careers, if such a thing was ever possible.
Or something
so they
which
don't
is...
say, or they don't say, go and be an entrepreneur.
It's what they call it, transferable skills, right?
Well, that's it. Yeah, I can
transferable skills. But on the other side, I think that everyone in this industry, whoever they are, they've brought their transferable skills in. As in, sometimes you meet someone, Russ, and you'll think, and you'll meet them, and you'll think, oh, he's a plumber. I feel like he could be something else. He could be. I feel like he's got other character. I feel like he could be a guidance counselor. I feel like he can be an inspirational talk. You meet someone, and you kind of think, I could see them doing something else. Everyone we've met on this 96 weeks. I'm not saying I can't see them doing anything else. I can see them doing anything they set their heart and soul to.
96 or 93? I thought it was
93. Sorry, 93 weeks. So
You're
over the 90, we had a couple of breaks and stuff, which meant that, okay, you know what I mean, whatever. But like over the 93 weeks, we've never, we've never had a guest on where I'm thinking they would be better off doing something else, or the industry doesn't need them. And then every guest we've had on, I've looked at them and been like, they're so necessary. They are so important.
They are. They've ended up where they needed to be. Call it fate, call it career decisions, call it whatever the hell you want. But they have ended up where they needed to be.
And where
right.
we need
you never
them
said,
to
you
be.
know what, you should, mate, you should be selling secondhand cars down the Old Kent Road. I mean,
the way you're a salesman, you should go into the schmutter business. Do you know what I mean? It's not like,
yeah, of course.
It's not there. But what it is everyone we have met just brings so much energy. Like I said here, like there's no one single source of motivation. So we've had 90-ish guests, all independently driven, all with deep, meaningful, painful stories, who have all come and shown their colors. And like, I don't think there's anyone, even Jade last week, she was like, once we peel back the layers, she had epilepsy. That's what made her that's what made her immerse herself more into this space. She was suffering with pain. Doctors were like, it's probably not epilepsy. She knew it was epilepsy. She didn't want to go on to serious medication. So she medicated herself. She took a struggle and she turned it, she took her struggle and she turned it into something which benefited her. And she's also adapted her way through this space, and she's, used the skills she's had, and she's adopted other skills. But it's that whole idea of, I feel like there's this pain. I feel like that's the common factor. That is the common factor.
I'm not sure it's pain. I think what it is they are, and I lump you in this with this. So they're in the vanguard of something. They're explorers. They remind me of the people, all of the guests, in all the various aspects and skills that they bring to this show and to the conversation. They're like the pioneers in the Old West. They load up the wagon train. All they know is they're heading west. They've never been there. There's not really a map. Who knows what's going to be there? They might make it to California. They might not make it to California. God knows. It's in the lap of the gods. And that's what it is. They were brave pioneers. And even the guys we got from, I think it was Kentucky, and they've got farms. All the Isle of Man.
The Isle of Man
Kentucky.
people are incredible.
But, so
they're
Kentucky
different. I want to say are different. Yeah. Them on the, I want to say like the more business side, they've got pain-driven stories, but they really are explorers. Okay, and that I have to agree with. Like everyone who's built a farm, everyone who's tried to build a medical cannabis company without anyone doing it before, anyone who's tried to build a structure that's never previously been seen in this part of the world, they are real explorers. And even a lot of those have come from pain. It's like this idea that I'm almost like, I know you don't see it as pain, but let me explain why. It's like every story we've ever heard me and you have literally either tears come to our eye or we've grimaced. There hasn't been one story where we're a bit like, okay, sounds like a walk in the park.
Yeah,
every story has been a bit like, are you serious?
I'm like with you, especially what we do on the Daily Show. I wish somebody, would just come on and talk garbage, and you go, well, that's just rubbish. What's the matter with you?
We've never had that ability.
No, what, you got a slight cold? Get over it.
It's been the emotional roller coaster. It's literally been the most emotional roller coaster.
I will never forget the video of the little kid.
Tanine,
Jeez.
This was one of our first episodes. That was like episode 10 or something.
Do you know
it was
what?
so early.
I've never
so
forgotten
early.
It just, that to me was my tipping point. I thought, this is terrible. I tell you why I came at this from, we should obey the law. Although they say the law's an ass and all that sort of stuff. But you obey the law, because if you don't have laws, you have anarchy. And you can't, it sounds very groovy, but trust me, maybe when you're 17, it sounds fun. It's not, it's just chaos. And, nature abhors a vacuum, and replace anarchy with something else even worse. But when I saw the video of the baby fitting, and I thought, I don't care what the law is. This is inhuman. Even now I'm getting a bit choked up. It's inhuman. It's inhuman. You can't let a little baby behave, suffer in this way, for God's sake. So, yeah, some powerful stuff there.
Also, what Tanine did there, which I thought was quite remarkable, is we actually had, a lot of the epileptic parents. We had, I think, 7, 8 of them over the course of the show. We've had them on. The Hannah Deacons and the Karen Gray and... there's so many. I mean, like so many. Like it's just, and every I like the Tanine as well. Do you know what I mean? Like so many of them. And sorry, yeah. And I feel like that video which Tanine kind of showed in one of the first episodes kind of set the bar for understanding what all of these parents are going through. Because my whole life I had heard about epileptic fits. And I'm saying with you, had heard about epileptic fits, but that point of view video of actually watching it happen, it was a whole nother level. And I feel like it was really important because it therefore gave a bit of an image to what we were discussing.
It gives it context. You see, it takes it out of the theoretical. Because if you say, oh, you should use it for epilepsy, and people go, okay, that sounds good, or I don't know. But when you see it, it contextualizes what the conversation's about. And ultimately, it's about doing good.
Exactly.
That's what I think. It's ultimately trying to improve the lot of others, improve other people's health in ways that may not be conventional. But okay, if it works, it works. That's my view.
And all of that pain and all of that suffering is what, was the initiator behind medical cannabis in the first place. And then you've got people like Hannah Deacon, who were at the forefront of that, who actually got a NHS legal prescription for her child, and she's still fighting for other people. So I've actually got a thing here. It's like, the sharing of pain the sharing of pain to lessen other people's pain. Now, I don't know if any of you have ever done this. Talk about the worst moment in your life and try not to feel anything. Talk about the biggest trauma you've ever gone through and try not to feel exactly what you felt. Try not to feel exactly what you felt in that trauma. This constant reliving of your trauma, this constant reliving of your pain in order for other people to not experience it. I mean, it's beyond martyrism, because the psychological and physical damage we do to ourselves when we relive our trauma and relive our stress on a daily basis, it's insane. But this is what a lot of these parents
speaking
have had to
of
do.
China,
hi Helen, it's our favorite guest.
You thought you thought we were making it up.
I love it.
Live from China. Congratulations,
from China.
You're the first person from mainland China we've ever had on Men's Radio Station. Welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for following us. We love you so much.
How cool
Helen.
is that?
I love it. Got Asian fans. Love it. So basically, like reliving pain and reliving trauma, it's one of the hardest things. They talk about in trauma recovery. What you should do is write your trauma down in a book and then bury that book away, so it exists, but you never have to go to it. But what a lot of these people do is every day they're pushing their trauma, and every time they have a chance to tell that story and sell someone on the benefits of how cannabis has helped their child, helped them, helped their loved one, helped a stranger, but that reliving that pain in order to kind of help you not feel your pain. I mean, it's just it's the most traumatic thing. I want you guys to try it. I want you to take a moment and just talk about the first time your girlfriend broke your heart. Try not to get pain. Talk about the first time someone who loved you let you down. Try not to feel pain. Talk about the first time you went for an operation. Try not to feel pain.
The immortal words of John Travolta in Saturday Night Fever. I am always the dumper, never the dumpy. So that's not going to work for me.
But you know what I mean? You're like, it's try and think about a painful story that you've buried, all right? Not the most painful, but a painful story that you've buried, and try and relive it and try and retell it without feeling emotion.
I don't want to.
And then you think about what all these people do, what the Hannah Deacons do, what the Tanines do, the pain which the Karen Gray's son has been seizure free for about 4 years now, which means that he's actually not cured, but he's got the right treatment. I mean, she still tells the story. She still relives her son's trauma in order for other people to not relive that. And there's got to be something in that. That pain is their driving force, but shouldn't have to be. I sometimes take a moment. I feel quite bad.
No, don't. It's another way of thinking about it, because this is a bit. I think you'll be slightly more stoic, if I may be so bold. Think about test pilots. Think about the guys who were doing all the testing before they went into space. Think about people like Chuck Yeager, who was the first man to break the sound barrier in the Bell X-1. All of that sort of stuff. They were going into the unknown. And so the Hannah Deacons and all the rest of these 90 plus guests.
Callie Blackwell, that's another one.
Yes, they're Callie Blackwell.
God, I love
They
Callie.
are test pilots in many ways. And test pilots, by their very definition, as Tom Wolfe wrote, have the right stuff. They're brave. I couldn't do it. I'd be a wreck. Not sure you could do it, but they do it. They're test pilots on behalf of us.
And then they share their journeys to everyone else so that other people don't have to be test pilots. And it's very important to understand this foundation that's been laid for us by all of these incredible minds, like there's no single point of direction as well in this industry. Like Russ said, there's no one type of person. There's no single point of direction in this industry to achieve, this goal of education, to achieve this goal of information dissemination. There are different skills which have been used in different ways. So, we've had like Ruby DeVoe, okay, the journalist, and she was talking about how, like it's all about the writing. Everything she does is in the written word, and she wants to be a pro-cannabis, or she is a pro-cannabis writer, and she creates this narrative through, she also had a child who was sick, and that's where she found cannabis, not to help her child. That's where she found all the other parents who were using it. Her child found other conventional means of help, but I opened her eyes to this space being what it is. She's used her skills as a writer in order to be in this industry as a writer and to share information that way. The construction experts like Jamie Bartley, who are pushing greener options that way with hemp as opposed to building materials. The ex-Facebook exec who's working, like Matthew Clifton, who's working to organize community expos. He's using this understanding of community building to build further communities in this industry. And it's kind of nice when the political experts, Nicholas Morland, who are the APPG, who are pushing a political agenda.
They were excellent.
They were excellent. Absolutely excellent.
They were great.
But what you have is like carers building businesses as caregivers. You have these networkers and socializers, people like Sam Cannon. Sam Cannon is officially the best networker I've ever met in my life. As in, I do not understand how he gets into the rooms he gets into. You remember Sam Cannon? He did that show with us where he did it from his phone and we lost him like 50 times. And he's not very good at media, all right, in terms of helping us. He's very good at doing media for other people. He's created some fantastic content. Just was terrible on our show, but we'll bring him back on. But he's like literally the best networker I've ever met in my life. I literally have never met anyone who can meet people the way he meets people. So what he's doing is he uses his skill as a networker. And it's quite actually special because I've realized, I thought that, potentially like he's using, other knowledge to get into it. He's not. He's just using his networking skill in order to build a network internationally for people who are looking to do more interesting things in this space than are currently happening in those territories. It's very smart, but he's using his skills.
There is one thread that links all of the 90 plus guests over the last 93 shows.
Me.
Apart from you. Because, Ollie, this comes as a shock. No, not me. And it's going to come as a shock. It's not all about you. But
it's definitely not all about me. It's about you.
It's not about me at all.
It's all about you.
Stop it. They're all creative in very different ways. They're all creative. They're creative, literally in the general sense of like Ronnie Wood's son, Jamie Wood.
Jamie. I love
Jamie
Jamie.
Wood. Jamie Wood. You know, showing us the artwork and the books, and you go, really? It's clever stuff. You know, that's pretty high end clever.
Very.
Stuff.
He always thinks outside the box.
Yeah, and then you've got you've got very creative, because you know, running a business, it's not all about bean counters. Running a business takes creativity, and if it's just run by accountants, well, good luck, it'll be soulless. But if you're starting off, you need to be creative in how you go about. How do you find your customers? What does the packaging look like? What's the distribution? I mean, all the building blocks of building any business, but you got to think creatively about it, because it's a crowded marketplace as well. Even though it's a tiny industry, relatively speaking, compared to like, you know, Pfizer or Beecham's or any of the other traditional pharmaceutical companies, it's tiny. Of course it is, but it won't be. It won't be.
Do you want to hear a poem, Russ?
No, poetry's not my thing, but go on.
Do you want to hear a poem? It's actually, I think it's actually pertinent. I think it's actually pertinent because you just said it's like building blocks, right? That's actually quite interesting. Let's see if I can find it. If I can find it in 2 seconds, I'll do it. If I can't, I can't. Cool. Everyone want to hear a poem? It's actually quite interesting. Okay, cool.
Everybody's saying no. Yeah, look. This is my face saying, yes, I'd love to hear a poem.
I think you'll like it, Russ. Fine. A house is built brick by brick from the ground we start. Piece after piece, it comes together if you are building smart. There's no point in building from the top. Structures will just fall. You need to create a good foundation if you wish to build up tall. Don't take any brick for granted. Don't rush by using chalk. Remember that time when you were a child. Don't run before you can walk. Rushing never brings success. It's important to plan your pace. Take each step or each brick as it comes. Make sure it's in the right place. You can only build a house once. You can only live this time around. Make sure your decisions are strong and secure, balanced, logical, and sound.
Who wrote that?
I wrote that.
Shut up.
Yeah, pretty fucking epic, right?
You wrote that.
I wrote that in like 2017.
Get you.
Now, yeah, pretty mental. So basically, like, I feel like that is the encapsulation of everyone in this industry.
Huh. Get you.
Yeah.
That's very clever.
It's not bad, is it? So
no, that's very good. I'm really very impressed.
There we go. Do you like poetry now, Rusty?
No.
Do you like it?
No, I like that. I don't like, but it's a weird thing. I know this is ridiculous as a writer. I'm supposed to love poetry, but you know what? I've never got it. I'm absolutely being honest here.
That's never completely fair.
I just don't get it.
I get that.
And other people love it. And I love the use of words and everything, but I read a poem and at the end of it, I'm like, what?
Nursery rhyme.
Doesn't move me.
Are you one of those people who are like, it's for kids? Poetry's for babies?
No. I'm talking about, I had to study the metaphysical poets and all that sort of stuff. It's all very clever. It's all very highbrow. Does it move me? No. It doesn't move me. It doesn't move me at all.
Thanks, weird. Russ. Next time you give me a book, I'm going to give you a great review. Okay.
I didn't say I didn't. No.
I'm just joking.
No. People are so sensitive. You need to take some CBD. Calm down.
I definitely do. So another thing which everyone's got in this
What made you want to write that?
So I went through a stage, I've written a lot of poetry in my life. I've written a lot of stories, a lot of narratives. It just came to me one day. It was like, I was in 2017. It was, like first couple of years of Taylor Mammon, first couple of years of us in this industry. And it's that kind of, all right, Ollie, brick by brick, and it just kind of came from there.
I had to do something. It's little Barbie steps. It's like the little Barbie shoes.
Exactly.
Like little Barbie steps. And you got to do it. But, sometimes you take a leap of faith, like Harrison Ford in The Last Crusade. And sometimes you have to just plod each step. And
you have to bring up the invisible bridge, don't you?
It does.
Us Jews and Harrison Ford.
It takes a leap of faith, though. Doing anything takes a leap of faith. Absolutely nothing is guaranteed. Nothing is guaranteed.
So do you know what else our guests have all had in common? They all carry the shield of responsibility. And I feel that is like every single one of our guests has comported themselves. I think that's a word, to comport oneself.
Nice.
Is that a word?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I should say.
Comported. Now I said it three times.
We got it. No, we got it. Don't get stuck on it.
Yeah, fine. So our guests have that worded themselves in such a wonderful way. And every single time we get a guest on the show, Russ is like, he's blown away by just the responsibility that every single guest like carries. Now, in a few weeks' time, we're going to meet this doctor. I actually met him at Product Earth. His name's Dr. Taz. You're going to love him. But he was talking, I was speaking to him today, and he was talking about how, like the re-education of doctors is his mission. And you've got like past guests like Hannah Deacon again, to mention her again, Tanine, Zeus, because we spoke about Zeus last week with Jade about how Zeus basically helped Jade get through novel food. Without him, she wouldn't be able to do it. It's like his shield of responsibility to help other people in the industry. And it's quite wonderful. You've got like Professor Mike Barnes. He is literally Mr. Shield holder of this industry. He has been protecting this industry and carrying the responsibility of this industry for nearly 2 decades. You've got Dr. Rebecca Moore, this shield of responsibility to show everyone that actually cannabis is not bad for mental health issues. Callie Blackwell, this shield of responsibility to show that cancer saved her son's life and it can save your life too. And it's quite incredible that you've had so many of these, wonderful individuals who are all carrying their responsibility right in front of them in order to kind of show the world exactly what they're supposed to do. And it's blown me away over the last few years because it is exhausting, and you hear and you listen to what these guys actually have to do, and it's not a burden because it's a responsibility they choose, but it's a responsibility. And we all know, our inner child hates our responsibilities. It's hard to carry them. It's hard to be responsible. And these people have just done it. It's just been their choice, and they are our foundation, is what I think what I want to say. They are the people who we can build our houses upon strong, as long as we like stick to their lessons and their teachings and their ideologies. The ideologies that, sick people deserve help, and, products need to be reliable. And, there's like transparency and honesty goes a long way. Education goes a long way. And the current norms might need changing, or the current norms might be wrong, and it's this responsibility of theirs in order to change this status quo of narrative at the moment. And it's just incredible, when you kind of take a moment and you, like I said, you look back and not at what they've done in the last year or what they're going to do in the next 5 years, what they've done in the last 20 years, in the last 15, 20 years, that the journeys which led them to this point. No one's born a cannabis expert. No one has a guidance counselor at school pushing us to do this. It's our responsibility to build this industry out the way we see it. And a lot of these names I've mentioned so far are the foundation. They are the future as well, but they are the foundation. And it's so important that we look at them and respect them.
Well, that's what leaders do, isn't it? You can either sit and watch and go and tut-tut, or you can get off your backside and you can go and do it yourself. That's just a lesson for life. There's always people who are going to sit there and criticize and comment, and then you go, well, what have you actually done towards this? Well, and there's a million reasons why, and there's always a million excuses. That's the nature of life. But what all of the 90 plus guests have demonstrated is they not just talk the talk, they walk the walk, as an old American phrase. Is that they actually got out and they're trying to make a difference in all their different ways. And there's a lot of different ways that they're doing it.
What a lot of these guests have also done, which a lot of people don't seem to realize, is that a lot of these guests, once again, to go back to the beginning, the cannabis industry hasn't been around for that long. Yes, in America, it was there from 1996. It's still only 25 years. Do you know what I mean? It's not a long time. A quarter of a century is really not a long time. From the old, like one of the oldest places we can see it existing in a kind of recreational, commercial real system. It's 25 years. It's really not a lot.
Well, it's nothing. Think about 25 years in the automotive industry.
Yeah.
You've gone from the Model T and whatever the hell that was when Henry Ford
did it. It's a hell of a lot more. Or in the tech industry, we've gone from, the Nokia 3210 to the iPhone in 25 years. A colorless screen where the only game was Snake, all right, and you had buttons, to a screen that can do more than the average computer. It's mental. All right. And that's 25 years in the real world. All right. 25 years in most of the industries.
Just remember this, which has always floored me. The complete computing of Apollo 11, which landed on the moon, had less computing power than a BMW car from 25 years ago. Think about that's incredible, isn't it?
Yeah.
So you can go down to Sainsbury's and get some shopping with more computing power in a 25-year-old, 30-year-old BMW than you could in flying to the moon. You think
The
about
self-checkout,
Wow.
the self-checkout at Tesco is probably a more advanced computer than what's sent than everything that sent them to the moon. When you think about it, it's actually ridiculous.
Think about the lines of code. You think how many SKUs, shopkeeping units, that they have to recognize. Think about all that coding. It's complicated stuff. So 25 years in any industry is a blip. It's kind of like a nothing.
But that has been our industry. The entirety of our industry is 25 years. And, I don't think people quite understand how much education people strive to, how much education people strive to learn, how many new facts people strive to learn just to teach. So how much information we are absorbing just to try and expel it out to you. How much stuff we're reading and learning just to condense it down so you understand it and you can make your decisions right. And, you see people like, do you remember Eyal Nadav, the dude from Israel with the terpene company? Do you remember that? A long time ago, right?
Yeah, I
but like
remember.
him, the amount of, he found a cure for COVID. He's found like cures for AIDS in terpenes. The guy is on another level. He's found like blends of terpenes to help you go to sleep. Blends
I
of
remember
terpenes,
how excited you were when he came.
But the guy is on he researches and creates products for all of us to use. He hasn't patented anything and sold it for $1 billion and made it unreachable. He designs everything and it's there. It's available for us to work with. I mean, the guy is incredible. You've got Dr. Seaman. She is one of the widest read people I've ever met. And she is constantly studying, constantly trying to put more letters behind her name, constantly building information in order to disseminate it out amongst the community. Jamie Wood again. Jamie Wood is a researcher. He's a mental case, but he's a researcher. And the amount of work he does.
Sorry, you can't say that. I'm sorry.
What?
Somebody's an M case.
Oh, right, sorry. So he's an absolute character. Okay.
There we go.
He's an absolute character. He's on another level of. I'm not even going to say it. He's on another level of general life. And he's a real exploratory researcher. Chris Stubbs, the dude who discovered CBD. I mean, like he is like the one. He's the first one to ever make a tincture. Like, and we had him on the show. Like he's my partner, but the guy's on another level. He researches just to research. It's just to be able to understand more, to be able to explain more. Christopher Tasker, who we've had on several times with Global Cannabinoid Solutions, he was telling us before we did Product Earth, when he was on the show, he was telling us about how his job, what he does is he waits for patients to call him with their problems, and he'll do research so they don't have to. So then he can explain to them what they need and how they need it. Why? Because the information is not there. And if he can't help them, he'll go and research until he can help them. It's literally researching just to teach. He's spending his time learning just to help one person. It doesn't even charge for this. It's just research for the sake of education.
They're driven. They're driven, aren't they? It's a mission.
It's amazing. And, like it's just the accumulation of knowledge to share. I mean, it's just on another level of excitement. And I'm so proud to be part of this industry when you've got people like this who are just doing it all for everyone else.
Let me ask you a question. It's a serious question. I don't want one of your silly answers. All right. Do you think that these guys, these 90 plus, think that you in the same way? Because I don't know where this all sits. All right. Do they say it? And that Oliver Mammon, he's done X, Y, and Z, because I think you're being a little bit modest.
Maybe like 30% of them, 40% of them. I'm pretty sure though, right? That's a lie. I'm pretty sure like most of the guests I've had on will have mutual respect for each other. All right. But I'll say I reckon 30% of them are like, what, Ollie's doing something special. Because the rest of them, it's not even this. They're doing a hell of a lot more than me. As in they actually are, I still am borderline corporate. You got to bear that in mind. I'm a worker. Like I work for a company.
Yeah, but you say it like it's some sort of like it's a huge insult.
No, it's not a huge insult.
It's
but I
not.
mean, like emotionally driven. Like my show is one thing, my work is something else. The caregiving I do on the side is one thing. The product development I do commercially is something else. And I feel like I feel like people respect my brain as a knowledgeable cannabis individual. I think that people respect my innovative creativity. So it's my ability to think outside the box. And then also it's the fact that I want to give other people a voice, which I think people like. It's not the Ollie Mammon show. Like I've said hundreds of times, it's all about the guests. Without the guests, I reckon we would have only done 10 shows because I reckon you would have got sick of me. It's the idea that he's got
that many,
maybe 8. Lucky number 8.
Number 8.
But yeah, and I feel like what happens is like we have a lot of people in the industry will show a respect for the platform. And Russ, what we've built a platform which has given the industry a voice. We built a platform which has once again looked back, not forward. It's not a discussion of what you're doing now. It's a discussion of how we've all got here. And I feel like that's quite special in terms of what we've done together, Russ. And I think that the community appreciates our platform. As in, I have no problem getting guests. And fact of the matter is, everyone I speak to, they're like, yeah, I wouldn't mind actually talking about my journey, because it's not really something people talk about. People kind of get blasted questions on how you can help me,
there's also, because of the format, which is deliberately long form, it's very difficult to discuss a subject which has so many complex aspects in like a 4 or 7. Most interviews are between 5 and 7 minutes. That's it. That's the media norm. And so in 5 to 7 minutes, it's impossible. You can't, because you could get stuck on one point, or the interviewer, because I like it as a conversation. But if it's not a conversation, it's an interviewer, they could ask the wrong question. You go down a complete blind alley, and that's 7 minutes gone. It goes, I can't do that anymore. It goes, I can't do it
because of the wrist, right?
No, because of my stupid finger. It just goes down, and it'll be gone, which is why we have an hour. So when the guests come on, that you can have an in-depth conversation, and I can butt in with my notes and queries, as they say.
And I think what we've done as well is we don't have an agenda. And I feel like that's one thing which has served me well, is because I'm not an activist, I'm not really an advocate, I'm not really politically focused in any way. I'm a lover of cannabis and appreciator of the community and appreciator of the industry. And I can put my corporate hat on. I feel like it's created a bit more of a true view of what I am. I really am just like, I'm just a dude. You know what I mean? That's literally what I am, just a dude in the industry. And I kind of like that. I do like that. And I do get love, you know what I mean? I get a lot of love from this community that we've got around us. And, a lot of the guests on the show, like, I know I mentioned Zeus last week. He actually messaged me saying thanks for the thanks, but generally, like, I love him. Do you know what I mean? The guy's an absolute legend. And most of the people I've had on the show, I actually do count them as friends. I would call them, I call them up for like chit chats, like, or if I bump into them, I'll just spend time with them just to be with them, because they are, they're good people. Like, even like, randomers who I've just met along the way, I do feel like it's been very good for friend building and community building, because it is quite important. There aren't that many of us in this industry who think the way we think, and there's competition, there's commercialization, and then there's a nice relationship. And sometimes it's nice just to have a nice relationship in the industry, with people.
And talking about having no agenda, the ABC of CBD doesn't have an agenda.
It really doesn't.
In other words, no one has said, this is fantastic, this is what you got to try. All it is, I put it this way, it's like a shop window. Here's your options. You could walk into the shop, have a look around, or you can walk past. It's entirely up to you. And so that means there is no agenda that's trying to be pushed. And that's very important, because I think when shows get very vociferous and loud and shouty because they're trying to hammer through some agenda, it's like,
or they only appeal to their following, and you have to really be a part of that desired agenda or have the same thought process in order to follow it. It's almost you become more of an influencer than an
you're
educator.
yelling into your own echo chamber, aren't you? That
Yeah.
drives me mad. And that's so much of that is so much of media today. You're going to get people on who agree with you because you know they agree with you, and it's all marvelous, and you're slapping each other's backs. Well, how does that move the conversation on?
I think that's why we've been able to get such a broad spectrum of guests as well. Is because because we're always talking about that. So like I said, that story back. Even like with our, you could call it more company focused guests, like with the Orange County boys or Grace's London, Shiona from Grace's London, Alex Dunhill, Jade Proudman, who second episode was a lot more about Charlotte's Web and the business side of it. But all of them, they all have stories of pain. As in, like Orange County was one of my favorites because I realized that there was a story there, but I didn't know what it was. And when they got them on the show in the Orange County, the three Liverpudlian boys, the three Scouse boys.
Yeah, I remember them.
They were incredible because, like, what's it called? Gee, my brain's just gone completely numb. Don't get angry at me. But like, you had the one who was suffering, and it's just like Daryl, Aaron, and my brain's gone completely blank. I'm so sorry.
Ringo.
But we did call him Ringo, didn't we? Cool. Yeah, we did. But yeah, basically, and he was telling a story about how he was suffering and how they found CBD and how it all kind of came together. And you're like, oh my God, the story's epic.
Oh, that
and
makes
the story
sense.
is actually true. You know what I mean? The story is actually true. And the thing, they never get to share that. Right? They never tell that story. The same with like Jade. So many people know Jade is affiliated with Charlotte's Web, but not that many people know that Jade nearly died. Do you know what I mean? No one, and even if people who do know that, it's not really shared. What's shared is she's a very smart businesswoman, but there's no business in what she does. It's all soul. So it's like how the other people perceive them, and that backstory, unless you go looking for it, you're never going to hear it. And that's why I always thought it's quite important to almost pry it out in the most personal, emotional way with like a yoinking, jerking pry. Because at the end of the day, it's important to show that narrative. It's important to tell that story.
What's yoinking?
Yoinking, like you're going to yoink it.
Oh, okay.
It's like the yoink.
We're going to yoink it, yeah.
It's like one of those sounds which it's a sound which sounds like the act. Do you know what I mean? Like onomatopoeia.
Onomatopoeia, yes.
I am on fire today. What are all these words? Incredible.
I don't know what's going on, but it's
dyslexic. Anyway,
I'm looking for my dog because when she disappears, you never know what she's going to do.
The Schnauzer. I was going to buy you a present last week. I was going to buy you a Schnauzer mug.
Oh, bless. I love those.
Yeah, I was going to buy you one.
I love them.
Yeah, and then I thought, you know what? He probably already has it because he's like
I got
a
kind of
Schnauzer.
I'm a bit obsessed. Anybody knows I've got so many Schnauzer T-shirts of every variant. It's ridiculous. It's ludicrous.
I'm going to find you something. I'm gonna, I can at least know what to get you for Christmas. But yeah, like we've had the most. We've got 2 minutes, so I might as well say we've had the most incredible people, and they've really made this show. And like I said, these stories behind people are so important. So, and these stories behind people justify exactly where we are. There is 10, 12 years behind every story of now, minimum. It's important to hear what those 12 years have had in store, like why someone, how someone, what someone has experienced in order to get to where they are now. And I love the fact that we've shown that. I love the fact that we've put that emotion behind this story. And I love the fact that we've managed to, make a difference in this community. And the fact that people are finding us in China and North America. And
the China one is so incredible.
South America. And just, we've had that's another one. Dr. Sandra Carrillo. I haven't mentioned her at all. Also, she is just like literally doctor. What she's done in Colombia.
It was Colombia.
It's all her. It's all her. She was talking about like if she wants to try and do legal. It's all her. She was like the driving force, one of the first doctors out there. And now look at them. They've got a flourishing, blossoming system. And it's her story of wanting to rewrite these written wrongs in the medical industry about how cannabis is not bad, it's good. And all of these shields and all of these fighters and these warriors have made our show incredible. It's been such an honor to host these guests and just to be able to be the deliverer of these stories has been epic. I've loved it.
Good. Well, if you're happy, I'm happy.
Are you actually happy, Russ?
You naturally. I'm going in for an eye procedure tomorrow. I'm not that happy.
What's happening?
I've got some debris in I went for a regular test in Tesco's.
Is it called debris or debris?
I say debris.
Anyway,
I've got some trash in my.
How do you spell debris? DAYBREE, like the cheese.
Stop it. Debris. Debris.
What's the difference between daybury and nightbury?
Well, I haven't got any nightbury in my eye. Right, that's about it. Ollie, I've really enjoyed this.
It's been a great hour. We needed to have one of these.
The
We've
time
needed
has
to have
flown
one of
by.
these chats.
But the most important thing about you is your passion for this, which never wanes.
And then never disappears.
It never wanes. You marry up your passion with your technical skills in the lab, and that's a joy. That's how things get done. We will be back, God willing, next Thursday at 6 o'clock. Until then, try and stay out of trouble. Bye, gang.